All right, so Texas Republicans have effectively banned abortions outright. Okay, so I want to read to you some of the details of what is in this bill. It's called SB 8. And this shit is absolutely wild because not only have they effectively banned abortions, but they have also essentially put bounties or allowed for private citizens to collect bounties on women or anyone who is associated with a woman who potentially gets an abortion. So let's go ahead and read some of the details and then talk about how exactly this happened and what, if anything, can be done about it. So, Texas near ban on abortions takes effect after Supreme Court takes no action, and the court is still expected to rule soon on an emergency application from abortion providers seeking to block the measure, which is now the most restrictive abortion law in the nation. So, the Supreme Court did not take action early on Wednesday on a request to block a Texas law prohibiting most abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy, allowing the most restrictive abortion law in the nation to go into effect. So 6 weeks after you initially become pregnant, almost every single woman who is going to get an abortion would not have even known that they were pregnant at 6 weeks of pregnancy. Okay, that's extremely early. It's before like 85% is what they estimate people are actually going to be able to detect that. So you're basically banning abortion for essentially all women. And so they continue saying the law known as Senate Bill 8 amounts to a nearly complete ban on abortions in Texas, one that will further fuel legal and political battles over the future of Roe v. Wade, the 1973 decision that established a constitutional right to abortion, and the law makes no exceptions for pregnancies resulting from incest or rape. So this is literally as restrictive as you could possibly imagine. Doesn't even cut out anything for specific instances of incest or rape. It's despicable. It's disgusting what these Republicans are doing, and they continue saying an emergency application from abortion providers seeking to block the law remains pending, and the court is expected to rule on it shortly. So we'll have to see what the outcome of that is going to be. But listen, we have a dominant conservative Supreme Court that was effectively put in here to protect a decision like this, right? You have Brett Kavanaugh, you have Amy Coney Barrett, who are the newest additions, Neil Gorsuch, who is also a new addition under the Trump administration. All of these people were put here for reasons like this, right? To uphold decisions like this from these repressive states that are putting these laws into place. So I honestly highly doubt that they are going to come out on the right side of this, but we'll have to see what the Supreme Court decides to do. But listen, these are the consequences of things like this, right? These are the consequences of people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg not retiring in 2013 under the Obama administration like she should have done, and instead, seeking to continue to maintain in her position of power up until her late 80s or whatever it was when she ended up actually passing away. But listen, first of all, fuck Bill Maher, but he's absolutely right about this. Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have retired under Obama to prevent Trump from filling her seat. So yeah, I mean, these are the types of consequences that come as a result of that. But they continue saying in the application, abortion providers wrote that the law, quote, would immediately and catastrophically reduce abortion access in Texas, barring care for at least 85% of the Texas abortion patients, those who are 6 weeks pregnant or greater, and likely forcing many abortion clinics to ultimately close. And the Supreme Court precedents forbids states from banning abortion before fetal liability, the point at which fetuses can sustain life outside the womb, or about 22 to 24 weeks, so significantly cutting back on that. But the Texas law was drafted to make it difficult to challenge in court. Usually, a lawsuit seeking to block a law because it is unconstitutional would name state officials as defendants, but the Texas law bars state officials from enforcing it. And here's where we get to the fucking absolutely wild part, and instead deputizes private individuals to sue anyone who performs the procedure or aids and abets it. And so what does this mean? Well, the patient may not be sued, but doctors, staff members at clinics, counselors, people who help pay for the procedure, or even an Uber driver taking the patient to an abortion clinic are all potential defendants. Plaintiffs who need not have any connection to the matter or show any injury from it are entitled to $10,000 and their legal fees recovered if they win, and prevailing defendants are not entitled to legal fees. So essentially, we have a situation where they are entirely criminalizing abortion, even in the cases of incest and rape. Okay, past 6 weeks, which accounts for, as they said, 85% of women are going to be falling under the same category who are not aware of their pregnancy at 6 weeks. Okay, so they set up this ridiculous standard, effectively outright ban abortions, and then on top of that, to make it more difficult to overturn in the court systems, you are going to deputize private citizens to go collect $10,000 bounties, suing anyone that they possibly can. I mean, mean, listen, if you've been around politics for a while, I'm sure that you've seen the videos of insane, whether it's like extreme right-wing groups or anything that go and they stand outside of Planned Parenthood clinics, or they go out and stand outside of these abortion facilities, and they just scream at people as they are going in, and they harass them and they bully them. What do we think is going to happen now as a consequence of a law like this? Well, you're going to have people who are standing outside of these clinics, and they're basically writing down everybody who was involved in it. Again, whether it's an Uber driver who happens to be dropping you off at the clinic, a family member who's dropping you off at the clinic, the providers themselves, the clinic, all of these people could be wrapped up in lawsuits. So you're going to have a bunch of fucking crazy right-wing lunatics standing outside of these clinics, ready to try to collect a $10,000 check on top of legal fees. And then the people who are accused and have to go to court to defend themselves in these cases are then not entitled to legal fees themselves, even if they win. So this is the most ridiculous, backwards, authoritarian law that I've seen in a long time, okay? Texas, absolutely out of their goddamn minds. Again, we'll have to see what happens in the Supreme Court, as the Supreme Court is going to be looking at this. It's obviously unconstitutional, as they pointed out. The Constitution prevents it before the point of fetal viability. They have banned any restrictive access to abortions before that period. So it's 100% unconstitutional. But listen, that doesn't necessarily matter when you have a ridiculous right-wing Supreme Court. And this gets down to the fundamentals of what the fuck are we doing with our institutions, okay? Either you have to expand the Supreme Court, and as I was going to point out in this article here, right, liberal push to expand Supreme Court is all but dead among Hill Democrats. So it seems like Democrats have somewhat given up the fight of actually expanding the Supreme Court. But listen, you have a fundamental reality here. You either have to expand the Supreme Court or get rid of it. I mean, why do we have a system where you have a handful of unelected, appointed, lifetime appointment lawyers who are extremely partisan and are extremely political, even though they're not supposed to be, but they are, and they basically just get to sit up on these courts making these decisions that overturn the democratic will of the American people? It's a completely ridiculous and backward system, but Texas is leading the charge in potentially undoing Roe v. Wade and undoing the right for women to have an actual choice over what happens to their own bodies. So it's one of the most restrictive laws that I've seen across the country. We're going to have to see what the Supreme Court decides to do, but this is absolutely fucking crazy.